Saturday. And today we're now joined, great to have President of Baylor University, Dr. Linda Livingstone, with us on Sikkim 365 Radio. We want to get into the expansion, college athletics, but a lot of other things. And what was it like? First of all, thanks for your time today. I saw the story that for the first time ever, Baylor University went above 20,000 when it comes to your enrollment. What does that mean?
Well, it's great to be with you. I appreciate the opportunity to visit today about a variety of things. Well, I think what that signals is just the great interest there is nationwide in Baylor and what we're seeking to do here to be a preeminent Christian research university. And a lot of that growth is in our graduate and professional programs, which is not an area we'd put a lot of emphasis on, and that has really given us a huge national reach in addition to the growing national interest in our undergraduate program. So we're excited about the future and lots of opportunity for us, and certainly says a lot about the way the folks across the country are thinking about Baylor.
What's it like to be part of Conference Realignment when clearly no one knew that it was coming 2 months ago, and then you have to jump right in and fix something that no one had planned on even talking about for a while?
Well, it was a rather frenetic 6 to 8 weeks there, I must say. You know, when you have time to plan and prepare and anticipate things, you, of course, approach them a bit differently. But I do have to say, even though it was not something we expected at the time it came, I can't say enough about my the 7 other colleagues in the Big 12, the 8 athletic directors, and the way we pulled together, worked with the conference office to get to where we were able to announce what we did on Friday. So it was a heavy lift and many hours put into it by many people, but I think a very good outcome.
President Livingstone, I'm just curious, how did you first find out about that Texas-Oklahoma move?
Oh, gosh, I'm trying to remember. I was actually just getting ready to leave town on a family trip, and actually was in Oklahoma when it really hit. I think we were just getting ready to leave when we learned about it. And, you kind of hear it in the media first because we're all so surprised. And Texas A&M, of course, I think is who we learned leaked it. But it was really a surprise to all of us. I'd been in many meetings, obviously, with the presidents of Texas and OU, where we'd been talking about the conference and the future of the conference, and just no signals whatsoever that they were unhappy about anything. And so, there's disappointment, and then you quickly turn to kind of rolling up your sleeves and saying, well, this isn't how we would have wanted this to play out. We wish that it would have been handled differently, but it's what the hand we were dealt, and now we've got to move on and make the best of it.
Did you ever, at any time when it first came down and the dust settled, did you ever think about the fact that Baylor could be relegated to being outside of the Autonomy 5?
Well, we certainly looked at all the alternatives out there, but we were deeply committed, Mac Rhodes and me, we worked with some of our board members closely to do what we needed to ensure that we stayed in a Power 5 conference and make sure we've positioned ourselves to do that. I think the success our athletics programs have had over the last number of years certainly helped us to be positioned for that. And, given the alternatives that were out there when the dust settled, I think the one that we ended up with adding the 4 schools positions us well and gives us actually more opportunity going forward as we continue to see how this landscape in college athletics evolves in the next several years.
I asked Bob Bowlesby this on Saturday. I'm curious your perspective on it. Does it feel maybe not so much as you're expanding the Big 12, but maybe even like starting a new conference just because the foundations will be so much different with the 2 teams that are leaving gone?
I think every time there's a conference realignment, and obviously there have been several over the last 10 or 15 years, there is certainly a piece of sort of creating a new conference, but I think you continue to have elements of the original conference. Of course, I was a part of the Big 8 conference when I was in a student athlete at Oklahoma State, and so there are sort of still core elements of that in this sort of newly reconstituted Big 12, and so I think those threads and themes of that original Big 8 conference through the original Big 12 continue to be there. And I think it just shows kind of the strength and resilience of the conference, that it continues to be successful. It continues to bring in really good new members. And I'm excited about BYU and Cincinnati and UCF and Houston. They bring a lot of interesting things to the conference and things we didn't have. And obviously they're performing well right now on the football field. And so we love to see that. And we'll be paying a lot of attention to them and cheering for them along the way.
What was Friday like once, and like I even said Friday, Dr. Livingstone, I said that even though that was the ceremonial day, the Big 12's already 2, 3, 4 weeks already down the road ahead of where they are, but they had to kind of have that day. What do you think that meant to the 8 remaining teams, and what did it mean to the incoming teams, and how much do you share with the other presidents or whoever else that was involved in all of that?
Well, certainly the 8 of us had, regular conversations about where we were and where we needed to go, and frankly about sticking together, and that we were all going to be a lot better off if we worked together, if we maintained the core integrity of the conference. And I think after we completed the vote that Friday morning, there was certainly a sense of relief that we had turned that page and now we could look forward. But I think there was also a sense of joy that we had brought in some great teams and that we had really strengthened the conference and positioned ourselves well for the future. So, we haven't been together face to face really since, I guess, last February or March in 2020. So all of this has been done remotely. So I do think when we finally get together face to face, which I think we're going to do within about a month or so, it'll be great to see everybody and to really celebrate the outcome of this.
This doesn't have to do with expansion, but I am curious, not only with your background in academia, obviously, but as a former student athlete, as you mentioned, what are your thoughts on the current lives of student athletes in terms of name, image, likeness? I mean, all the moving parts that have been going on, because, that's something that you would have benefited from. So you have that perspective, but also just as somebody in administration in college athletics these days, or in just the universities period, there's a lot to keep up with. You guys are probably afraid to check your phones every morning, I would think.
Well, you do wake up, and every day is a new day, and you're very generous for thinking someone would have paid me in college for my name, image, and likeness. So thanks for saying that. College athletics has just changed so dramatically, and I think, frankly, the NCAA and all has been a little slow to react and adapt to that. And obviously, I'm on the NCAA Constitution Commission as well, that's looking at how we position ourselves going forward to address some of the challenges and issues that we've had and how we govern intercollegiate athletics going forward. And, I think we've got to learn how to adapt while continuing. And I think this theme comes out a lot as I talk to presidents around the country, how you maintain the integrity of collegiate athletics where there is still a significant academic component to what we do. And certainly some of the things that are going on with name, image, and likeness put some stress on that, but I think we're all deeply committed to maintaining the integrity of the academic component of college athletics. And so I think we can do that, and we're all committed to that.
You mentioned the governance committee, you're on that, going forward, trying to find new rules for NCAA governance and what that means. Is one of the things you guys need to work on is finding a way for the NCAA to be proactive other than reactive, because these last few years, it's just been one reaction to things one after the other, as if they weren't going to lose cases. It seems like their preparation was, well, we're going to win no matter what. And then when they lost, they didn't have a plan B.
Well, it's really clear as we listen to feedback that we've got to simplify the structure and make the organization more nimble and more able to look forward and be proactive in addressing things that are on the horizon. And I think it happens with many organizations. You make rules and you put structures in place as issues arise, and then you never sort of go back and quit doing things that maybe don't need to be done anymore because the world has changed. And so it is, I think, a good opportunity to kind of wipe the slate clean and say, what do we need? What kind of structure, what kind of processes do we need given the dynamic world that we're in now? and to really try to simplify and really reduce the bureaucracy within the NCAA to help create a sort of a cleaner model for governance of college athletics going forward.
I'm asking you this because I don't know, and I know I could look it up, and I have it on a couple of occasions. But when there was a lot of discussion about what might happen when the SEC, the Texas and Oklahoma story came up, was the AAU value. Is Baylor getting closer to being a part of that? And what do you have to do if you are going to be a part of that?
Yeah. So for those listening that may not know, the AAU is a group of kind of the top academic institutions in the country, particularly with regard to their research profile. As most people know that follow Baylor, we are in the process. One of our goals in our strategic plan, Illuminate, is to become a Research One university. And we're getting very close to that. We anticipate by 2024 having reached that Research One category. There is still a large leap to then be an AAU institution. There are many really great universities in this country that are not AAU institutions. And to some extent, there's certainly metrics associated with that, but the AAU is also a self-sustaining body, so they select people into the group, and then they can also select people out. Nebraska used to be an AAU school; they are not anymore, and so there are some classifications like that that are purely based on kind of the metrics and the numbers, which is kind of what the Research One categorization is. There are others like AAU that the numbers really matter, but you also have to get sort of voted in to be a part of that. So it is not one of our goals right now, because we really have got to focus on our Research One aspirations and attain those. Once we get to that point, we'll look at kind of what the next step in those efforts are to continue to grow our academic profile.
But I did see this, and this is nice news, that number 75 at national universities, U.S. News and World Report. How much, obviously, proud are you of that?
Well, we're really excited about that. I mean, we've been working so hard over the last several years to work on retention rates, graduation rates of our students, to support the work our faculty are doing to really grow our academic reputation. And so when it's hard to move in U.S. News and World Report, but to see that movement really affirm the great work that our faculty are doing, our staff are doing, and the progress that we're making really on a national level to not just improve the quality of what's going on at Baylor, but also to ensure that people out there know that that's the quality of work that we're doing here.
President Livingstone, what was it like to be at McLean Stadium on Saturday and see, thousands of fans also in attendance?
Well, it was fabulous to be there. After last year where we were at 25% capacity, it was great to be there. We pulled 9,000 student tickets, which was great. They were so enthusiastic. The Baylor family came around us, the local community. Was wonderful to see everybody there for a non-conference game. And, of course, our next home games with Iowa State, that should be a really fabulous game. And they're ranked, and hopefully we'll be 3-0 at that point in time, and so it'll be a great game. So thrilled to see everybody come out. Hope they will continue to come out as the year progresses, but can't say enough about how happy we were after the hard year we had last year in terms of being able to have people at our athletic events. So it's great to see. Our volleyball team is going to be in town this weekend, too, so they've been on the road against some really tough competition, so we're excited to have them at home this weekend as well. And, of course, our soccer team had a tough match last night but was able to tie Oregon. So lots of good athletic competition going on that we encourage people to come out and watch.
I mentioned the U.S. News and World Report, and we do have some breaking news in college football. With USC has fired their head coach, Clay Helton. We'll have that more on that here in a moment. Great colleges to work for. 10 consecutive years. I know a lot of times we can look at this and look at the front porch of the university, but that means that those who are there love to be there. How important is that you know that is a part of what you have, and not just get it, but get it for 10 consecutive years?
Well, again, it just says so much about the work that our staff do to support our faculty and students, the commitment that our faculty and staff have to this institution. it says a lot about our folks in human resources. Cheryl Gotchis, our Vice President for Human Resources, our Provost, Nancy Brickhouse, and the tremendous work they do to support our faculty and staff. And I think it goes to our Christian mission. I mean, we care deeply about the people in our organization, whether it's our students, faculty, or staff, and we want them to love working here, and we certainly want to create an atmosphere where they can live out their passions and enjoy doing it. And, we are always looking for ways to do that better, but certainly great colleges to work for affirms that for the most part we do it well, and we continue even from that survey to say, hey, what can we do better? So we were thrilled to see that again, and especially that survey was actually done when we were going through COVID, and that was a hard time for everybody. And so again, I think it says a lot about the Baylor family and the way we all came together and supported one another, even as we have been going through the challenges of a pandemic.
You and Paul discussed being proactive in terms of the NCAA a few moments ago. The Big 12 had to be proactive in going out to expand. We had Commissioner Bowlesby on the show, the pregame show on Saturday, and he's hinted in various interviews that the dust hasn't completely settled. Yes, the Big 12 is adding 4 new teams officially, but they're keeping their eyes open. Is that kind of the way that you feel, that the Big 12 is not necessarily done? They're going to continue to be proactive rather than reactive?
I think that we know with some of the TV rights coming up in the coming years and just the rapidly changing environment for college athletics that we should never sort of sit back and relax and think that we don't need to keep looking to the future and saying what's in the best interest of the conference, what's in the best interest of our universities, and then frankly, what's in the best interest of our student athletes. And so we will continue to see what the landscape is looking like and see if there are opportunities to continue to strengthen the conference. And I think we're all committed to that. And, these first schools that we added certainly prepare us well for whatever might happen in the next few years. There
have been so many things that since you arrived that I remember the time we sat down in your office at Patton F. Hall and interviewed you, and you gave me that lengthy time. That you've had to deal with whatever's gone on with Baylor and athletics or even the university. And then, of course, COVID, which was something that people had never really dealt with before. And there's also changes of what you have when it comes to policy or philosophies on campus because of what we've seen around the country with a lot of social injustice and everything else. When you go about making decisions to try to be inclusive, I'm sure that it's not everybody's happy about it. How do you juggle that of what is right, what you want it to be like, and also knowing that there are people who don't like change?
Well, these issues of diversity and equity and inclusion are challenging on every college campus because you have diverse student populations and diverse faculty and staff, and then your constituents, your alumni base, who sometimes don't look exactly like your student population because your student populations become more and more diverse over time. When we work on these issues, really any difficult issue, we really try to always go back to our core mission of preparing men and women for worldwide leadership and service by integrating Christian commitment and academic excellence within a caring community. And so when you start talking about diversity issues, equity issues, some of these really things that can be very controversial in our world today, we say at our core, we're a Christian university. We're seeking to create a caring Christian community. So what does that mean for the diverse populations on our campus? And how do we live out our love of neighbor, our belief in the worth and value of every individual in the eyes of God, and what does that mean? So we really seek to tie those back to our Christian mission and really biblical values that are important to us. And I think in some ways that gives us a way to frame that and ground it that helps us in ways that secular universities do not have the ability to do. It's not always easy. We certainly have folks with very diverse opinions on these things, but at the end of the day, we're seeking to live out our mission of being a Christian caring community in the best way we can.
Dr. Livingstone, I want to relay this text from ShooterTX. It says, Dr. Livingstone won me over A big fan during her good cop, bad cop during the Senate hearing. She and Mac were perfect. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask him whether I was the good cop or the bad cop, although I probably know. But
No, he said, FYI, she was the good cop. Mac brought the hammer. So that was. Yeah, and you know, when you guys did that, some of the responses, oh my God, you know, what are you doing? Do you feel like that was something you needed to do to be on record, or did you feel like that made any difference whatsoever with the legislature?
You know, I think when you're asked to come and speak to the legislature, I think you need to do it out of respect for them. And I think it was helpful to educate about what happened, how it was going to impact our communities. I mean, when we talk about these issues of conference expansion or realignment, we oftentimes only think about the impact it's going to have on our athletic program or our university or our student athletes. And I think that allowed us to say, you know, this has a huge impact on our communities that we're in, the economic impact, jobs. It has a big impact across the state. And so I think it was a good opportunity to tell that broader story, and that we need to look at these issues, step back and look at them from a broader perspective, because they do have huge impacts on jobs and people outside our institutions. And we oftentimes don't sort of weigh that as we think about some of the things that we do. And so I think there was value in it for that reason. I know I've heard from a number of the legislators that were there since then, and they really appreciated learning more about kind of how these issues affect the broader state and economy.
I know that your daughter's a part of that volleyball as a graduate assistant. You watch their schedule: number 7, number 2, number 7, number 7. Florida and Tennessee, and I guess Pittsburgh. A couple of teams with rankings change a little bit. Playing Florida a couple of different times and having their success. How much sometimes, well, not sometimes, football runs athletics because of the revenue, and men's basketball and what they did with the national championship. Your thoughts about watching what they're doing in the volleyball team?
Well, we are huge volleyball fans, of course, after having watched our daughter play, and now we've got such a talented team here at Baylor. And I'm telling you, they have a gauntlet to run this fall with the preseason schedule that they planned. But in volleyball, those are the kinds of teams you've got to beat in postseason to make it to the Final Four and to the national championship. And so they know that they've got to prepare for that. And within the conference, you get to play Texas. But that level of play at that top 10 level, we don't get as much of in the conference. If you're playing in the Big Ten, you get it every single weekend almost. And so they know they've got to go out and play the best if they want to be the best. And so it's been good for them. They struggled a little bit the first couple of weekends, but this last weekend against Florida, they stepped up and played great. And we're kind of excited. Thursday night, Shelby's Rice Owls are coming to town and going to play our Baylor Bears. And so Shelby will have mixed emotions as she sits on the Baylor sidelines, but we're thrilled to have them coming. It'll be fun to have the team back in Waco to get to watch them play.
Thank you for your time. I know you've got a lot on your plate. We appreciate you giving us some of your time.
Oh, always glad to visit. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
You too.